From the PSIA-AASI Satellite Studios in Portland, Oregon, I'm George Thomas. You're listening to First Chair, part 2 in our series of Finding Our Why. We're visiting with Melodie Buell again, and I really enjoyed our discussion before, and I'm looking forward to talking with you tonight, Melodie.
Thanks, George.
Now, I met Melodie a few years ago at Symposium. We were at Sun Valley. And that was a lot of fun. And I was like, wow, who's this amazing skier who's such an incredible teacher and has so much good impact and input for everybody in the group, even though she's not one of the clinicians. We had a lot of fun, and we've had a lot of great discussions since that time. And one of the things why I chose you for this series on Finding Our Why was you're one of those people who you'd ask a question and I would give you an answer, but the answer was never good enough for you. You would always say, but why? But why? You were always probing for deeper and deeper information, which I actually found really interesting. And I loved those conversations because we really found out some interesting things about each other. And it was because we wouldn't just give up on, oh, okay, it wasn't, casual conversation. It was real interest. And so when this series was coming together, I just couldn't think of a better person to talk with.
I'm honored. Thank you. I think you've tapped into something that is really important to me, which is, the people that I hold close and the people that I want to invest in, I really want to get to the root of what's true for them. And I think sometimes when we accept an immediate or a quick answer, we haven't actually come to what's connected inside of them to whatever the topic is. And so for me, if I can ask questions, probing questions to get beyond that quick answer, I feel like I have an opportunity to be a part of your journey. And that's really important to me and really starts to actually feed into my why. And it starts to feed into my greater purpose. And so I actually remember quite pointedly meeting you on a chairlift at Sun Valley. And I was in a group, and I appreciate you in that moment, taking the time to invest in me. And I agree, like we've had a lovely friendship evolve over the years since then.
So you have had an amazing career, and I'd really like to ask you why. What was really your motivation getting into snow sports and then following that trajectory of getting your level 1, your level 2, your level 3, joining ed staff and moving up the ladder that way? What was your motivation from the beginning?
Well, George, I think it's worth mentioning that early on, I actually begged for a ski lesson when I was 5 years old, not coming from a ski family. So I think it's worth putting it out there and recognizing like there was something inside of me from a very early age. And that, I remember kicking and screaming on the hill. I mean, goodness, if whoever my ski instructor was out there, I'm thanking them in this moment because that person lit a fire in me. And I think about that impact that had on me. And I loved it. Even though I was crying on the hill, I loved it. And that has not left me since. And, I think that there's been some really instrumental moments for me when it comes to my ski career. I grew up ski racing, and I raced through college. I had that moment where I recognized that I wasn't headed towards the US ski team. Most of us aren't. And I then, skied through college. I ski raced Division I, and that was plenty for me at that point, although there was the little tiger inside of me. And then, as we all do, I started coaching, and I got a lot of the fix. But what I started realizing in my 20s, unclear how at that age I started connecting to this, is that I had this stronger, I had this really deep need to create a sense of community and connection within the kids that I was working with. And I typically worked with 14 to 18-ish year olds. And I wanted something more for them. To me, the way they showed up for each other out on the hill, and mind you, I was in my early 20s when this was part of what my experience needed to be. The way they showed up on the hill for each other, the way that we worked as a team and a unit was just as important to me as their technical performance and how they placed. And I don't know that I could have articulated it very well then, but I knew that that was important. And that's actually part of what led me towards my adaptive path. You know, I got to a point in ski racing where I was just like, there was something missing. Goodness, at this time, I think I was 26 or 27, and I needed something a little different. And that sense of community had kind of lingered from the experiences that I was having. And I went out, and honestly, I attended a volunteer training for Oregon Adaptive Sports, and I fell in love. And it was like this space that was holistically embracing community and connection and supporting each other. I saw evidence of the things that I had been longing for. And I made a switch so quickly. In fact, I resigned as head coach and I started working for the adaptive sports program the next year. It was such a fast transition. And truth is at that point, I had never worked for a resort. So I did not grow up in your typical instructor, your instructor lineup, your instructor experience. And it really wasn't until the 2020s where I actually worked for a ski resort. So that's a side story that doesn't have a lot of substance for this conversation, but I think it's worthy to note that I've been on two very different spectrums in our snow sports world. And adaptive, kind of captured my attention. Gosh, where are we? This was in like the late 2000s at this point, and I was hooked. I thought it was challenging. I loved that every single time I was out on snow. Like there were different dynamics I was learning. And then within a couple of years, I was given the opportunity to come sweep in and help with some trainings and pursuing my certifications. And I want to say I did my Alpine level 1 and 2 in one season. And then I started, as they were available, I started chipping away at my adaptive level 2, my adaptive level 1s. And I think it's worthy to pop in there is that these were all really fulfilling. And I did have a decent pause in there because I had a fancy New York job for a handful of years. So I got some really valuable business experience in the middle of my journey. And then I came back. I came back full-fledged in 2015. So at that point, I think I had an Alpine 2 and like some of my adaptive level 1 disciplines under my belt. And I was focused, and I just started studying. I just started focusing on what I knew was a path that was for me and connected with something that was really important. But the truth is I wasn't that clear on what it was. And this became a bigger part of my journey that really lends itself into the last couple of years where I had to get really clear. And that is coming back to this whole overarching conversation about why. And it's that I came to this place where I looked and I said, I love this. I feel better when I'm out on snow, in the woods, in nature. It just unleashes something inside of me that helps me connect with myself. And that makes me more available to connect with other people. But I wasn't sure what it looked like. What I did see was this clarity that I needed to be thorough in executing my path through adaptive and alpine. I saw these things that were a little bit more of the what. I had to take care of these things so that I could start to have access to what it was that I might want to be impacting. And that was kind of where I landed. That was sort of where I would say within a few years, I tried out for ed staff. I was grateful and I was selected my first round. Of course, after I got my Alpine 3 and I had an adaptive 3, and I was there and I knew there was something greater for me, but I wasn't sure what it was. And George, something that I think you and I have touched on in the last couple of weeks as this project has surfaced is this clarity became really necessary as I moved into tryouts. Because the thing that I think is really true in our industry is so often we look over there, we look over at another instructor, we look at a teammate, we look at someone, and we think, I need to be that. And one of the things that I had to get really clear on is like, what is my big purpose? What do I want to do? And I was looking at the things I'd been putting my energy on, and that's evidence. That's evidence. But I needed to get clear so I could articulate not only with others, but with myself, because believing in me externally, that's nice. That's a little boost, but I needed to believe in myself as I am and what I have to offer. And that level of confidence is really different than trying to find little sources of energy to boost me up in the moment. And those are very different offerings. And what I started looking at is, what do I really believe in? What do I really believe in when it comes down to it? And what I knew was, like, I wasn't there to make the team. The team is a vessel for me to execute a much bigger picture, a much bigger purpose, and to help fulfill and substantiate that why. And I got cleared in this reality of, like, I really believe in positively impacting the human experience. And part of that is how? Well, doing it through outdoor recreation and really pursuing this pathway of inclusivity. And then getting more clear about, okay, well, if that's it, then trying out for the team as I am and what I have to offer means I show up and I be me. And if I'm a good fit for what this current team is pursuing, then great. This is going to give me more room to live into my purpose in life and to be big. And truth is like, another piece of my puzzle is I am really passionate about inclusivity on a global level. And I am so grateful that opportunity is rolling around next year at Interski. Like, that is phenomenal. And I look at that and I feel so grateful, but I also recognize that goal is not making the team. The goal, again, is living into my purpose. And these are all things that substantiate that. And there's still so much work to be done.
Heads up, your next training session could be as easy as logging in and exploring PSIA-AASI's online webinars. They're interactive, targeted, and built to help you teach and ride better on your schedule. Find free and paid webinars by heading to lms.thesnowpros.org.
Now, hearing you say this is amazing, and you sound so strong and sure of yourself, and I love it. But it really takes me back 10 months ago. Because I remember sitting in my car in the University of Colorado parking lot outside of Mackey Auditorium. I was at Nutcracker rehearsals. And
that was like a year and a half ago. Yeah.
It was November of last year. And yes, no, you're right. It was more than that. Yeah. But it was, you were very unsure of what to do, and we had a long talk about you trying out for the team and whether you should. And I know I never said, "Oh, you should do that." And I'm not a cheerleader. We had a really good discussion about what your goals were, what would be the best decision for you, and I went in and had an amazing rehearsal that night. But no, that really had an impact on me. And because I really believed in you, but it doesn't matter what I think. It really mattered what you think. And I've never talked to you where I felt such unsurety. And it was hard to listen to you and hear that doubt, because that was a Melodie I'd never met before. And we really had a good discussion about it. And then we talked again, and you were like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And you were already making plans on who to meet with and people to train with. And obviously it worked very well.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to reminisce on that. And I think that, you know, there's something that I think has a little bit of truth in that. Is sometimes I think we need little nudges, and we need people that we trust and that are in our lives that we can process a little bit and share those vulnerabilities. And the truth is I was really vulnerable. I did have doubts. I mean, goodness gracious, I spent plenty of therapy sessions with my therapist, like letting me process through this step and the doubts that I had and where are those things coming from, and recognizing what serves me and what doesn't, and getting more familiar and also differentiating between what was true for me and maybe what was just past experiences that were impacting my current behaviors, and taking the time and the effort to look into those turned out to be really valuable for me. And I think made me have really that much greater capacity. And one of the gifts that I experienced with you, and I'm sure many others that are close and I appreciate the relationships with, is I got the opportunity to really kind of take away the power of doubt by putting words to it and to saying the things out loud that were going on in my head. You know, the truth is, I think many of us, at least this is for me, is many of us are just riddled with our inside voices. And in fact, I was thinking about this earlier today. And I think that our inside voices can sometimes be the culminations of things that were said to us. I also think they can be a lack of kindness. And that doubt for me percolated in a culmination of things. And I think that, you know, we come back to this theme of why. And I think that getting clear on that why, first of all, of course, differentiating like what is past experiences that were impacting current behaviors, like getting clear on that, what emotions were showing up for me that were accentuating the doubt that I was experiencing and really impacting my worthiness. I definitely have a worthiness wound. I'm sure that's super relatable to a lot of our members. And looking and saying, I've got to be brave. I have a bigger purpose. And it forced me to get clear on my why. Because what I did know, even from the beginning, was the why can't be to make the team. That doesn't make any sense. The team is a platform for opportunity, and it's an opportunity to be more influential or to pursue projects, which is a huge piece of what I wanted I wanted a place to be able to pursue these projects and these bigger things that I want to bring in, and recognizing that it's so much more. And it's not validation. That validation has to come from me. I have something I had to get clear with. I have something to offer. Coaches want it or they don't. This is me. Here's my skiing. Here's what I believe in. Here's how I want to influence our membership. This is how I want to show up. This is what I want to bring on a global level. I love working as a team, and this is what I'm bringing to this moment. But I recognize it right now. I'm speaking to that with a lot of confidence. That was a messy path to get there. There were plenty of tears and like moments of self-doubt. But it's a practice. Like I think about that experience with discomfort. You don't roll up and like immediately go to level 10 discomfort. You chip away at it. It's like you don't go to the gym and you immediately throw 500 pounds on a bar. You go lift the bar first, and you put a little weight, and then you get stronger and you build the muscle. It's the same thing. It's all very similar. We build tolerance. We build the ability to start to see how things together. And yes, I think it's worth acknowledging that the support, the relationships, the validation along the way is so helpful and supportive, but ultimately that's coming from within ourselves. And that was a huge part of my journey that really has helped me become more aligned and consistent with myself and coming back to it. I mean, I keep these things written down so I can stare at them and remind myself what's important to me.
And that's where the why is so important. And I'm so glad we're having this discussion, because that was your motivate. That's what got you through all that doubt. And it's not, yes, people along the way definitely help, but it's you. And it has to come from you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
and I loved that you also said it wasn't about making the team, because last week you talked about it's not about the pen.
Right.
It's not getting the pen.
It's not.
It's what am I doing along the way? What am I learning? And how am I growing as a person along the way through this journey?
Yes. And it is, I mean, I want to acknowledge that I'm so incredibly honored to be on our team. Like that. I mean, there's moments where I pause and I'm like, wait, is this real? Right. And I think that it's worth taking a moment to acknowledge the respect and the incredible work that goes into our certification process and into our teams, whether that's at a regional level, our national level. And I think there's something really powerful about getting outside of that as the outcome. And I can speak to for myself in this experience of recognizing that my why was my driver, and recognizing very clearly that my purpose was going to be substantiated. I was going to have more access to living into what I believe is my life purpose. If I make the team, I have more support. I have more access. I have the opportunity to live into something that gives me a meaningful life. And that is incredibly motivating and helps me stay in a space and to continue to move into a space that I think that I can be a better human to more people out there. And that's really important to me.
And you really just answered my next question, because where do you go from here? You're at the pinnacle of ski instruction. You've made the team. There's nowhere else to go.
That's so silly. I feel like I'm just getting started, in all honesty. I think, I'm so invigorated to have the opportunity to be a part of Interski next year. I am, I guess, a year and a half, and I have so many ideas and things that I want to bring to really to the people. I mean, the thing I keep coming back to is I want to impact the public. I want to impact the daily user. And to me, the most impactful way I can do that is by helping support our instructors. It's helping support and help our trainers grow. It's helping the people that I'm around. And that means not just in the US. I want to do that as far reaching as possible. And if I can create more opportunities for inclusivity, more opportunities for more people who present outside of a social norm or as expected in terms of that, any kind of presentation, non-disabled. And I think that resonates for me. And it's let's bring more representation in and more opportunities where we're all just here together. And we're all wanting to move towards something that makes us have a big, audacious life. And if we can lift each other up in ways and create tailored support for each other at all levels, I think then we're continuing to be leaders. And that excites me. And to me, in this moment, I am not at the pinnacle. I am really come back to I am at a space where I feel like now I get to work more. I'm not going to dismiss it hasn't been work to this moment, but now I really get to put it into gear and see what kind of impact that I can make. And it comes back to this idea of yes, I have phenomenal community. I have an incredible people that are in my life and mentors. And it really boils down to staying clear with my why and believing in myself. And that's not always easy.
Melodie, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insight on this topic. I really appreciate your time and appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you, George.
From the PSIA-AASI Satellite Studios in Portland, Oregon, I'm George Thomas. Thanks so much for listening to First Chair.